something spoilers ahead. Genshin Impact is a Chinese casino masquerading around as a video game. It will get you addicted to anime Breath of the Wild, and if you're not careful, empty your entire bank account. Take it from me, I originally started playing as a joke with one of my friends so we could make a one-off video on it. That was over a year ago and I'm still playing, and so is my friend. Now my social life is non-existent and well beyond saving. In this game, you play as John Genshin, a time-traveling demigod searching for their sibling who was wrongfully banned from Twitter. So now you must travel through Chinese Avatar The Last Airbender and destroy all mortals who cross you with your crack den alchemy ability, which includes but are not limited to freezing them, electrocuting them, and slamming meteors into their spines, all while exploring the world and sucking out all of its natural resources and treasures. Now, veterans of my channel might know that I've already made a review of this game. However, there are two reasons why I'm making another one. One, because that review was objectively bad in both quality and content, so I'm deleting it and replacing with this one. And two, because I actually ran into the funny YouTuber man himself, and I sent him a friend request, which he promptly rejected. So, on the off chance that Maxor actually sees this borderline plagiarizing video, I've got a spot saved for you right underneath MatPat. So please, add me back, you coward. But with all that out of the way, come and join me on this adventure as we fight the anime KGB, grave rob the deceased, and scramble through the dumpsters in search of more crack crystals to buy more waifus. Now, before we talk about the story, or the gameplay, or anything that one would even associate with the video game, we need to talk about my crippling gambling addiction. See, in Genshin, almost every playable character is unlocked by sacrificing a metric ton of shiny crack rocks and praying that you get something actually usable. Then you take your newfound waifu and showcase them off to the world like a small child showing me their dope-ass Bionicle collection. I really do wish I was joking when I say that this is the reason probably 90% of their player base exists in the first place. Now, while rolling, you could get the character that you were hoping for. However, since there's only a 5% chance of getting any character in the game, you're most likely going to get someone you couldn't care less about, which is why it's important for you to exercise patience and control, and not to get mad, especially since all the cool characters have a 0.3% chance of dropping. But hey, since we're talking about the bad now, it might be a good time to mention that the anti-cheat for this casino is extremely strong and has ring 0 permissions on your kernel. What does this mean? I have no fucking idea. Who do you think this is, Linus Sex Tips?
When a man loves a woman.
Just be aware that while the game is running, the CCP is probably watching. So while they are, it is a great idea to show them some patriotic love. Anyways, when making a build for your character, random no-lives on the forum might tell you to min-max. Fun fact, never do that. While you still should attempt to make a decent build, especially if you plan to play in a high world level, however, you really shouldn't try to get the utmost best possible stats in the game, since it's an incredibly painful process. So painful that even money can't be used to solve it. Now, this is the part of the script where I drunkenly failed to write a proper transition, so instead of showing you a picture of a crab, I'll show you an octopus. But what even is the in-game world and why are we here? Great question, voices in my head. Since the game is a product of the minds of Asian people, the lore for this game can be described as both extremely weird and extremely random. The world of Impacted Genshins is governed by 7 gods, each with their own individual elements. This happened because, about 5 minutes ago, each region was filled with their own series of gods, but they had to fight for control of their power by fighting in a battle royale, except for the rock god, who just decided to team up with over half the other gods and make them fight the rest for him. After the ashes had settled, the 7 gods got to rule their land and its people by any matter they saw fit. So naturally, they all decided to go and give out small fractions of their powers called visions to the common folk. And by common folk, I mean the complete sociopaths of the generation. Like, for example, a maid who likes helping people so much, she decided to try to become a knight so she could help even more people, and also legally use violence. Or a literal child turned jihadi because the fire god thought it would be a good idea to give her an endless supply of fucking bombs. Now guess which one is canonically a knight? Currently there are 3 regions to play in, First is Mondstadt, a medieval European country turned revolutionary France. The wind god decided right then and there to peace the fuck out and not deal with that. Now the current leaders of Mondstadt are the police state, making a cheery ass area in the game sound oddly dystopian. The region also features an area dedicated to wolves, so if that doesn't tell you the competence of the local government, I don't know what does. Oh yeah, the region is now also getting attacked by a dragon, so my bets are on France creating their 369th Republic within the next year. The next region is Lelek, or more commonly known as Ming Dynasty China. The land is currently under the watchful eye of the rock god, who occasionally pretends to be an average person to make sure everyone is upholding their contracts. So it was naturally a complete shock for the region when someone went out and assassinated him. This event caused all of his demigod friends to get mad and threaten to wipe out the entire population. With tensions rapidly increasing, you'd be hard-pressed not to find the Russians trying to add gasoline to the fire. And the most recent location added is Izijima, which is currently under full lockdown because the god of lightning realized just how dumb of an idea handing out visions really is. So naturally you try to convince the god to stop, with violence. Oh, I know, let's start a civil war and plunge the entire country into guerrilla warfare and then abject poverty. My favorite part of the story here is after the conflict is resolved, the god just casually forgets to lift the international lockdown. Like, okay, I guess no one here is gonna get any more silk from China. Now, the government causing small businesses to die is fun and all, but just who are the people in these lands, and what else are they suffering from? Well, Jack, that list is extensive. The most common creatures filling the landscape in between the towns are the hilly trolls, also sometimes called the hill devils, or the second most blatantly stolen concept from Breath of the Wild. These are an intelligent species that are able to construct their own homes and weapons, and even have their own language, which is why everyone loves murdering them on sight, except for child Elon Musk. Like, okay, what are you even gonna do? Go and build them a Tesla? But for everyone else, they are prime targets to loot, maim, and kill. All in all, I give them an ethnic cleansing out of I'm stealing Maxor's jokes again, god damn it. Besides the hobgoblins, there are also armies worth of adventurers who explore the world looking for treasure so that they can feed their families. But since they're not members of the same adventuring guild as us, we get to label them as treasure hoarders and squad wipe them all. But seriously, why do they think that throwing a bottle of water at me isn't just going to piss me off? The next group on the list is the Abyss Order, which consists of either space midgets or 12-foot-tall librarians. There is no in-between. This order has also sworn vengeance on all of humanity because one day they went off and destroyed their farming equipment, and they're still salty about it. And lastly, we have the Ice KGB, who use the tactics of diplomacy and subterfuge to get their way, which is why their agents consist of 9-foot-tall assholes with hammers and dudes with fucking guns. Cause how else are you supposed to be diplomatic when you're not sticking an MP40 in the faces of the ones you're negotiating with? On top of this already extensive list, we also have the wildlife to contend with, which includes but is not limited to territorial plants, the slime incident, the not slimes, literal fucking boars, and interdimensional wolf furries. No, I refuse to elaborate. So instead, I'll tell you about how to beat them to death. Every playable character in Genshin Impact gets to wield a weapon type. These include the English Longbowman, the Basic Bitch, the Fidget Spinner, the Pokeboy, and Knowledge. On top of this, each character also has access to an element that causes a specific type of reaction when it collides with a different element. Except Geo, which simultaneously reacts to none of the elements and all of the elements at the same time. I guess you could say it's Schrodinger's element. This is why it's extremely important to set up appropriate teams so you can become as effective as possible. Wait, it's all random, get fucking trolled. This right here is why I highly recommend you use Noelle in at least the beginning of the game, because she is simultaneously a tank, a healer, and a DPS. Is she good at any of those? God knows, she's a 4-star for Christ's sake. But at least she can fill just about any role you autistically forgot about, except for the role of a girlfriend. If you're still looking for one of those, please, I beg you, go outside. Where was I? Oh right, elements. See, something that is very important to remember is that your foes can also use elements. This means that if you're not paying attention, you might get comboed with being hit with water and electricity, which makes you feel a lot of extra pain. Any homies out there that also enjoy the great pastime of chucking car batteries into the ocean might know firsthand just how effective that combo is. But with that being said, you can also use this exact combo on your enemies instead, without fear of the Geneva Convention getting mad at you, because just like in the real world, they can't do shit to stop you. Anyways, an effective team in Genshin normally has one DPS Mega God, one sub DPS, which are characters that deal damage without being on the field, one shield spammer, and one healer / other support. Now, you might be thinking that the elements of your team matter as well. However, if you want to achieve maximum damage, just slam as many different elements into the face of your enemy as fast as physically possible. If you're not sure that you're doing it right, a good reference point is whether or not you can even see the enemy for the particle spam. My current team starts with me deploying my electric sub DPS and then immediately switching to my jihadi main DPS, because when fire mixes with electricity, it makes an even bigger explosion apparently. Then when I get bored, I change to my wind character to hit them all with even more damage. This right here is why combat in the game works really well. This wasn't me trying to make the most optimized team in the game, these are just the characters I happen to have. Most characters in the game are actually pretty good and viable. Most. Meaning that even though the characters you have access to are random, you still can have a competent setup. Which leads to almost everyone using unique builds and having their own main. Some other characters include the autistic bird woman, the other autistic bird woman, the pirate man, the extremely lucky adventurer, the furry stand user, and the reason I can't say all characters are viable, along with many more. But now that we have the Ultra Murder Death Squad, it's time to find some gods to impale. Now, if you have eyeballs, you might have noticed that this game looks almost identical to Breath of the Wild. This is in fact an objectively correct assumption and is a good thing, because my ass is out here waiting for the sequel, and now I have this instead to drain away all of my free time. Anyways, the army's worth of tribal goblins and dirt poor bandits begins to make sense when you realize that the place is built like fucking Nepal. This means that your glider reskin is going to come in handy as you glide across the entire map. Another fun way to explore is to use the pirate assault dinghy, which has access to bombs and is great for doing drive-bys. The way Genshin is set up allows you to either follow the quests and stories of the game, or let your ADHD take over and have you run off in random directions. And guess what? Both are viable. I think it really speaks volumes about just how great the exploration is, when at one point, I was picking flowers off the ground, and within 10 more minutes, I somehow found myself thousands of feet in the sky fighting a being made of lightning. You'd think after a while, I'd get bored of the open world, but they just keep adding stuff, which has led me down a spiraling descent that has caused me to eventually find too much stuff. But what do you use all of this fat loot for? The answer is upgrades. See, the devs of this game thought it would be a great idea to have almost everything in the game being upgradable, which is why your character, weapon, and equipment all have separate levels. Now, I could list all of the levels off like a bumbling moron, but one, that's boring, and two, I think most people wouldn't believe some of the stuff unless they've also played this game. See that mountain over there? Not only can you climb it, you can also upgrade it, and I don't care that I am currently fighting a civil war against this god, I'm still gonna pray to them and sacrifice 20 of these purple orb things so that I can obtain 40 more crack rocks. Now this next segment is going to differ way more from the Eldritch Being script that I've been blatantly plagiarizing, because although I really liked the guy's video, I feel it missed talking about a lot of content that I think is worth including. Something really worth taking note on is just how often the game updates. For just about every 2 months, the devs get stoned and add in completely random mechanics and then forget about them. Like, for example, base building. On a complete whim, they added an entire system for you to craft furniture for your crib, with the only instructions being not to make anything too obscene, which are instructions I followed to a T. Anyways, they put a lot of effort into this just to forget about it for like 6 months. Another random thing they added were e-dates, which has given some sad people another excuse not to leave their homes and talk to real women. The devs also spontaneously added fishing for no real reason. Uh-oh. Why is someone trying to join me? The Genshin Impact community is genuinely scary and will randomly try to enter your world. If you ever find yourself being invaded by others, it is probably for one of two reasons. They might want to steal some of your materials in your world. If that's the case, just let them have it. If they're not after your resources, they probably need help killing a boss and you just so happen to have a 5-star as your PFP. Now, the reason I'm so terrified of the community, and why you should be too, is because they're completely insane. For an example, for the 1-year anniversary of the game, the devs decided to give out some free crack rocks to the population. This angered the community and sent them into an unstoppable rage, where they went and dislike bombed the living hell out of the game. It used to be one of the most liked games on the App Store. Now it has a 3.5, and once Google saw that they were review bombing, they started removing the comments. The community then went off and started review bombing other games instead. And the worst part, nothing could sate their uncontrolled, unrivaled, pure, unadulterated Hey, we're now also giving out a new pair of wings in celebration of our 1-year anniversary. And just like that, the community was satisfied. And if you think that's bad, the Chinese fanbase literally tried to assassinate the fucking lead developers of the game because they made an event exclusive to US servers. Just, what the actual fuck? Now, if the video ended here, I'd say that the game is a definite buy because the game is free. You are not buying anything. But besides the psychotic community and the potential Chinese spyware you're downloading, there are other concepts that may convince you not to try this hellscape of a game. See, when the devs went and put their game onto the App Store, Apple promptly stopped them and told them that it was a physical requirement to have at least one awful game mechanic that's polluting the toxic waste bin that is phone games. And thus, the resin system was born. So, if you want to get a fully upgraded character, better wait. You need to spend resin in order to get upgrade materials, which most of the time just means fighting a series of basic enemy or bosses, like for example, the entire cast of Geometry Dash. And if you want to upgrade talents, which is some side upgrade bullshit by the way, you get to fight the actual fun bosses with their Dark Souls style music. Why isn't this required to upgrade the physical characters instead? Because I can only listen to the stupid water boss's dialogue for so long before it drives me physically insane.
As long as rain falls and rivers flow, water will exist forever.
The only plus to this system's existence is that I get to grind for the exact thing I want. Unless it's a specific trait on an artifact, then you can just suffer. Anyways, if you want to optimize the grind, that means that you'll have to partake in the daily grind, or just spend money. But you're smart enough not to be a whale, right? The daily grind also includes getting your daily allowance of 60 crack gems. But if you want to get more, and you've already rummaged through most of the dumpsters of the area, you can get a ton of extras by doing some of the limited time events. There are an actual metric ton of events to partake in inside Genshin. Some of these are small and minor, like playing Metal Gear Solid 3 with these dogs. I have no idea what's happening because I skipped the dialogue, please help. Or bigger story-driven events that also give these funny crown things as a reward. I haven't used one of these yet, but it won't stop me from hoarding them away like a seagull when it sees something shiny. Where was I? Oh yeah, the bad. Some people claim that the English voices of this game are bad and should never be used. But I personally don't have an issue with the voices.
Think I've lived in Liu all these years and never come to see this before.
Because I prefer not having to read the dialogue. I left high school specifically so I don't have to do more reading, guys. So I just leave it in English. Wait, who is that? Okay, never mind. Change it to literally anything else. Alright, but with the bad out of the way, should you play Genshin? I don't know. Did the devs ever respond back to my sponsorship offer yet? Oh, they told me to check my sub count. Alright then, the game is not worth it. Okay, real talk now. Should you get into Genshin? Only if you have self-control. Because having a Genshin Impact addiction is financially worse than a rampant smoking addiction. So instead of spending your money on Genshin, you should give it to me. Oh wait, you actually thought I had a Patreon? Again, look at the sub count. Just subscribe so YouTube can actually pay me, and I'll be happy. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I already have your exact coordinates.